Welcome to the webinar, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our eLearning Lab webinar using social media with your students. We're really excited to share this webinar kind of as a follow-up to our book club that we just finished a few weeks ago where we read social media. And we are happy to have two participants from that book club here with us today to share some things that they are doing in their classrooms and their schools, utilizing social media with their students. So we will get started with that presentation in just a few minutes, but I want to do some housekeeping items before we get started. So my name is Mary Carnahan, and I am the eLearning Resource Specialist with the Department of Education, and I have the pleasure of producing and scheduling these webinars and finding awesome educators who are doing awesome things and sharing them with other teachers in the state, with other educators around the state. So today is no exception. We'll start with that in a few minutes. But as you joined the webinar today, I muted your line, so please keep those muted. That will prevent any background noise and any distractions as we go through the webinar today. Hopefully you all see the chat box on the right side of your screen. We will use that as our primary means of communication today. Please use that chat box to ask questions of our presenters and to have conversations amongst yourselves. Share any ideas that you guys are already thinking about or things that you're doing in your classrooms or your schools today. This is definitely a great opportunity to network and to share with other people. So that's what we want to use the chat box for. Make sure as you use that chat box that you select everyone from that Send To drop-down. When you join the webinar, it defaults to only send messages to me, and we want everybody who is in the webinar today to be able to see your messages. So again, make sure you select everyone from that Send To drop-down. I am recording this webinar, so I will share that probably early next week in our YouTube channel where we have shared all the archives from our past webinars. So that will be available next week. So if you can't stay for the whole thing or you want to refer back to some things that our presenters talk about, that will be available to you guys. And I think that is all for that. So this webinar is part of our eLearning Lab series, and this is the last webinar for this year, but we will be starting again in either late August or early September next school year, and I am already working on some topics for that. So if there's anything that you would like to see us share in the eLearning Lab, or if you have something that you would like to share, please email me, and I'll put my email address in the chat box in just a little bit. But we would love to get some new, fresh ideas and just are excited to know what's going on in the field. So please consider that opportunity. Another way that you can have just continuing professional development as you go through your days is to utilize the ieLearn hashtag. This is a great way to connect to other educators, not only around the state of Indiana, but around the country and sometimes even around the world. We've got a big network of educators using that. So please use that hashtag. And then connected with that, we do Twitter chats every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And this week is part of our leadership series, and it is extending opportunities beyond the school year. So if that sounds interesting to you, please check that out at 9 p.m. Eastern this Thursday. Okay. Again, everybody, please keep your line muted as we work through the webinar today. So one more piece of professional development that we have is our book clubs, and we do typically 3 book clubs each year. Like I said, we just finished one a few weeks ago, and we will be starting our summer book club on June 4th, and we are going to be reading Start Right Now by Todd Whitaker, Jeffrey Zuhl, and Jimmy Casas. We are really excited to offer this opportunity, and this is a participate at your own convenience sort of professional development. It is all online. We do this through a blog, and we will pose a question. We'll read a new chapter each week, and each Monday we'll put some sort of question or something to think about out for that chapter out in the blog. And then throughout that week, we encourage our participants to comment back to that post or to other people's comments to have a dialogue and a conversation around that. So that is beginning June 4th. That will last 6 weeks, and you will be able to earn up to 12 PGPs for participating. The PGPs are awarded dependent on how many weeks you participate. So if you participate in the discussion all 6 weeks, then you would get 12 PGP points. So a great opportunity to learn. You can read by the pool. You can read, if you've got young kids, you can read during nap time and blog during nap time, or again, while the kids are at the pool or on vacation, anywhere that you are where you have time to do this, a good opportunity to accrue some PGPs for your license renewal. So we are happy to offer that opportunity. And speaking of PGPs, we do award PGPs also for webinars. So I will send out those certificates probably tomorrow, if not tomorrow on Thursday for today's webinar for the live participation in that. So with that, I want to turn this over to our first presenter. We have an elementary teacher, and we have a middle school, junior high media specialist who are going to be sharing with us today. So first, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Caitlin.
All right, hi everybody. Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay, awesome. All right. Hi everybody. I am Caitlin Heilman, and I am a third grade teacher at Van Rensselaer Elementary, and that is in Rensselaer, Indiana, up in northwest Indiana. My Twitter handle is @Katie Heilman, and I'm constantly on there sharing things, trying to learn from others. So give me a follow, and I'll follow you back, and we can learn together. Next slide. So I just want to start off by saying that for me, it seems like creating social media leaders, it starts with teaching them digital citizenship. And I feel fortunate that I get to have such young students because I can already start right here in third grade what it means to be a digital citizen and how to use our voices appropriately when we are using social media. And so I always start the year off with explicitly teaching digital citizenship skills. A lot of times we use the common sense media resources. We have a great resources there for any grade level. We always take a digital citizenship pledge, and then throughout the year, I just embed and continue to model these skills within our daily lessons. Next slide. And I know as elementary teachers, we love our anchor charts. So I always start out the very beginning of the year. We talk about responsibilities of being technology users, and we talk about the rights of technology users. And honestly, I think having the rights of technology users is probably, something that we sometimes forget when teaching digital citizenship. Because it seems like I have a lot of students who, when something isn't working, they just complain. Well, I teach them, we have the right to say if tools need to be fixed. And then we always come up with an iPad contract that we make together. And then I always, it's huge, and it's hanging up in our classroom all year. And then I always take a picture of it, and I print it out, and I send it home with my students. And the students and parents have to sign it together. That way, I'm already building a connection between home and school because, sometimes parents aren't using social media appropriately at home, and when we can start changing that and getting on the same framework, it just makes it a lot easier. And then also with the responsibilities of technology users, having these posters up all year long truly helps when I'm trying to embed these. I'm like, oh, hey, remember we have the responsibility to only publish our best work. Oh, we have the responsibility to only posting something that we are proud of. And by having these conversations early on in the year and making these anchor charts, it allows for us to just continue to have this all year long. One of my most proudest moments is when, one time we were writing, and we were getting ready to publish it, and one of my students, I see her walk all the way across the room and go talk to another student, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, well, I'm asking permission if I can use her name in my story that I'm about to publish. And I was like, oh my gosh, yay, they're listening, they're getting it. So I just want to say, by setting the groundwork right away at the beginning of the year with these digital citizenship skills, it's going to lead the way into bigger and better things when we're trying to make our digital leaders. And they're going to know that social media is not a place to complain. It is a place to learn from others and to work together. Next slide. Okay, so one of my favorite ways of getting students on social media is just by blogging. And I feel like this is one of the best ways, because if we're just teaching digital citizenship and we're not giving them opportunities to actually be immersed in it, then what's the point? Because, even though these students are third graders, they're going to be online and they're going to have their own social media accounts one day. So why not start on this young, and why not get them already learning how to share their voices appropriately online? And so I want to talk about KidBlog, which is what I have used for the past 5 years. And it's my favorite blogging tool, because there are so many moderation tools that the teacher has control of. And since my students are so young and they're still learning how to share their voice appropriately, I like to be in charge of, okay, am I going to let them post this to the public? Am I going to let them post just to our connections on KidBlog? Or am I going to let them post just to the teacher or just to their classmates? So I have the ultimate control of that. However, what's awesome about KidBlog is that the students actually have the choice too. The students can say, all right, I just want my teacher to see this, so they can choose teacher. Or if they really feel like it's awesome and it's their best work and they want the world to see it, they can choose to the public. And then, of course, I get to have the ultimate approval on that. And so a lot of times with the KidBlog, we always talk about publishing our best work only because it's going to be seen by others. And then also it gives me the chance to also talk about commenting on each other's work, because KidBlog is amazing with letting us go in and we can comment on classmates' work, we can go in and comment on the other connected classes that we follow. And so we have so many conversations about what a productive comment is. We don't get online and slash somebody saying, oh, you spelled all these words wrong. Oh, you didn't use correct grammar. No, we talk about how good digital citizens give some compliments, some feedback on work, proof that they have actually read the post, and then maybe give a tip or a suggestion or ask a question. And so by giving my students immersed into social media at such a long age, it's really cool to see. And it's been awesome looking at their posts at the beginning of the year, their blogs at the beginning of the year, and then their blogs at the end of the year. And just the growth that they show in not only their writing, but the things that they are saying in their writings and the conversations that they have in their comments. It just goes to show that this does work. And I have my link into our KidBlog classroom, and I will be putting that in the links here at the end, or in the comments, the link to that, so you can go and check out what KidBlog is all about. However, there are so many other blogging tools out there like Blogger, but like I said, the reason why I love KidBlog the most is just because it truly gives me the moderation features on it. So check out KidBlog if you are hoping to get your class blogging and have fun with it. Next slide. Okay, so with Twitter, my favorite thing to do with my class is the Global Math Pass Twitter Challenge. And it's so cool because if you just search that hashtag, you're going to be getting so many math problems that were actually created by students for other students. And so whatever grade level you are, you would search the hashtag GMTTC, and then I would do 3 since I'm in 3rd grade. And so all these other 3rd grade classrooms are having their students write problems, and then we get to answer them and reply back to them, and vice versa. And so it's so cool because my students can actually realize that, oh, Twitter, this is a place where we learn. This is a place where we can have fun doing math challenge together. It's not a place where, you know, a lot of people, you know, they see their parents getting on Twitter and just complaining about something. And this way, when they're at school, you know, and hopefully they'll take it back at home too, and when they get older, Twitter is a place to learn from others, make positive connections, and grow yourself. Only posting positive things that make you proud, that's all we do on Twitter. And again, I have a link for a Getting Started with the Global Math Test Twitter Challenge, and I will be posting that in the comments later on, so you can refer back to that. And then something else that we like to do is a Twitter chat. You can find another grade level, maybe an older, younger, or even the same grade level as you, and have a Twitter chat within your classroom. Maybe you have another, you find another classroom out on Twitter that is reading the same book as you, and maybe you want to have a chat together of, you know, some questions and answering. Again, it shows students that Twitter is a place to be social and learn and grow together. Something else is we have a tweeter of the day, and I might have a couple students who, and sometimes they're not good about this doing it weekly, sometimes it kind of turns into monthly or kind of sporadic, but have a couple students do a tweet of the week, you know, share an activity that they thought was the most fun of the week, or their favorite lesson of the week, or something that they learned in the week. And I just want to say that I have a classroom Twitter account. I don't have my actual students having their own Twitter profiles. They all use my Twitter account. And again, the why on exposing these young students to Twitter is, well, they're going to have a Twitter account one of these days, and they're going to start learning right now that it's a place to connect and learn from others. Next slide. Okay, the Global Read Aloud, and I know this was mentioned quite a bit in one of the weeks of the book club, and I wanted to definitely put this out there because it is such an amazing opportunity to really get your students connected and basically having a digital book club, just like we all participated in, and students can already see, like, oh, they have a love of reading, and they're also getting a chance to practice having a digital voice as well. Again, I have all kinds of resources, links here that I will be sharing in the comments. But basically what the Global Read Aloud is that there are each year, and it's usually in the fall, there are books chosen for specific grade levels. And you read the book together, and in 3rd grade, I'm actually reading the book to them. It's, you know, one of my favorite parts of the day, and then they grow to learn this, our read aloud too. And the books that are chosen have always been so meaningful, and since it is at the beginning of the year, we keep talking about that book, and it seems like every other book that we read, we're referring back to, like, oh, I remember when we read Pax or The Wild Robot, and it just gets this love and this community of readers too. And then once you have found some other classrooms to connect with that are also reading the same book, you can, again, you know, do some book clubs on Twitter. You can start a Facebook group, Flipgrid, Padlet, whatever you as a teacher are comfortable with. There are so many opportunities. And again, this would be an awesome, awesome way to show your students amazing digital citizenship skills again, and how to be on social media, and showing them that social media is, again, a place to learn with others. And again, like I said in my why, it's showing students that, It's a place for learning, connecting with people who may have the similar interests as you. So please, 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 globalreadaloud.com, I believe, to check it out. There are books for all grade levels, K through 12. So please check it out. And there's an awesome Facebook community if you are just now interested in getting started with the Global Read Aloud. Next slide. Okay, and now Seesaw. I know this one might be really popular with mostly elementary students, but I just want to say that it can be customized and it works for high school. It is an amazing, amazing it's app or it's Chromebook as well. And I have a link so you can see our Ms. Howman's Seesaw class. It's amazing because it allows families to connect within our class and practice social media skills at home. So this is a great one for getting your families at home to be connected with our class and participating within our class and showing students that their parents can see their work too. Parents are commenting on their work. Students can post back and forth too. And with Seesaw, they can get on, they can like each other's work, they can comment again. It's awesome because they can view each other's work. And it's, again, it's a safe and controlled environment because that's what I'm all about with my young students is that they're just now learning what social media is and how to use it. And so I want to still have that you know, that covering, you know, their security blanket. I'm not ready to totally give them all full control because they need to practice with it. And so by using these tools, they're immersed in it because I feel like we can't just teach the digital citizenship skills and teach them what Twitter is and teach them what Facebook is. They have to have practice by using it. And when they can do it with me, model it with me, and be in a controlled environment, I feel like they're going to be so much more successful and they can become these social leaders that we really want them to be. And again, my why with Seesaw, students and families are connecting in a positive way that promotes learning, and they're learning together. And it really gets kids, they're publishing their best work because basically with Seesaw, anything that they are reading, writing, math, anything that they've created, they can post it to their Seesaw journal, and their classmates can see and comment on it. I obviously can see it and comment on it, and then it's fun when parents get to see it too. And then I can also really get my parents connected with using this when I will go around and I'll take pictures of my students, what we're doing for the day, and really let parents have a glimpse on what our classroom is doing. And it makes our parents feel comfortable seeing what we're doing, and there's never a question on, well, what did you do at school today? Because they saw it on Seesaw. And I kind of feel like parents should be checking Seesaw just as much as they are checking their own Facebook. But these are some of my favorite ways that I get students, you know, practicing with social media. I know you guys out there are using so many other opportunities as well. So I encourage you, please follow me on Twitter, and I will definitely connect back with you because I love learning and connecting with others. I'm a lifelong learner. I try to tell that to my students too. So give me a follow on Twitter, and I will be posting the links that I have shared on the comments. So check back with those, and thank you all for listening. I'm going to go ahead and pass this back over to our host, Mary. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you so much, Caitlin. So much great information, and I love how you shared the importance of teaching that digital citizenship piece. I love seeing it at such a young age because, as you said, these kids will be using some sorts of social media as they get older, and having them have that base knowledge of how to use it and how to use it kindly and productively is so important. So thanks for sharing that piece. And also, I was just going to ask you when you said it was that your students are using your classroom Twitter account because something, you know, in thinking about the students utilizing social media, you've got to consider their age because I believe that most, if not all, of the traditional, the social media that we as adults are using, the age is 13.
That's either 13 or 14.
Or 14?
Yes.
So that's so important in modeling good behavior, not saying, hey, you know, we're going to create an account. Like, that's so hard not to do that. And that's a personal decision, and if there's a reason for creating that account younger than that age, you know, that's a personal decision. But having safe places and having like Kid Blog and Seesaw and these safe places where they can be utilizing social media without being out in the wild, so to speak. I love that you have these pieces to share and they're getting those experiences. So, okay, I'm going to turn it over to Joanne, who is a middle school media specialist, and I think there's a little bit of overlap between resources, but I'm excited to hear how these things are being used at the elementary level from Caitlin, and now at the middle school, junior high level from Joanne. So it is all you, Joanne.
All right. Thanks for having me. My name is Joanne Boudreau, and I'm a library media specialist at HSE Intermediate Junior High, so my building's a 5 through 8 building in Fishers, Indiana. There's definitely some overlap, especially with Global Read Aloud, because that's what I played a big part in with our school this year and gave me some unique or new opportunities to use social media with our students and with lots of classes and grade levels across the building. So I have 2 Twitter handles, interestingly enough. I have the Mrs. Boudreau one is where I kind of try to grow my own professional development and PLN and all of those types of things. And then my library one on Twitter and Instagram is where I more promote things to kids and families about what we're doing in the library or events are coming up or those types of things. So I'm going to start out just kind of by some goals and focus areas and things that I've worked on this year, and then diving into some of the stuff that we've done this year. Largely with Global Read Aloud, but some other things as well. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So one of the biggest things that I took with me from Jennifer Costa-Todd's book, Social Media, I heard actually last summer. So before this book talk even started, although I'm glad I actually got to read the book and participate in all of those great conversations, but last summer, she spoke at ISTE. Now, I was not at ISTE last summer, but I participated in an online community during ISTE that is not at ISTE. And there was a gentleman who was at ISTE who did a Periscope with her permission, so he asked permission, and Periscoped her talk about social media. And I had the chance to watch it last summer, and she talked a lot about shifting to the positive. And so I put that quote there from chapter 8 because that was one of the things that I really wanted to, before I had even had a chance to read her book, which now I have a deeper understanding of, but a shift that I wanted to work on making. Because there are certainly opportunities with me working with different classes in different capacities as their school librarian for me to talk about digital citizenship and leadership skills, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't just scaring kids and not just giving them the negative, but showing how it can be a positive or empowering thing. So in that, I know some of my goals just in general at my school are just being a resource, because sometimes I have opportunities to use social media with classes, and sometimes those opportunities aren't there. So when they're not there, I maybe look at being a resource for other teachers or other people that are doing things with it. Also with the school and my professional account, making sure I'm being a good role model in what I post and what I comment on and how I post and what I retweet, and giving people credit and being positive and all of those types of things, right, that we're practicing what we're preaching. And just, looking for those opportunities, having conversations with both students and staff. The more you can do it in context, the better. There's certainly times where we need to have those explicit conversations about, you know, digital footprints or copyright rules or things like that, but the more we can do it in context where it's a natural fit, the better. And then next year, after reading this book and going through everything, my big goal for next year, in addition to continuing kind of the positive track, is to look on more leadership opportunities for students digitally and making sure we're shifting beyond citizenship. We still for sure need to do that, but trying to start moving beyond that. All right, next slide. So before I jump into Global Read Aloud, which I'll definitely get to, here I just posted a couple examples of things that I've been putting on our school library Instagram page. I've had an Instagram, I guess, for 2 years now, but I still feel like a newbie sometimes, but that's okay. But the kids, like, that's where my kids are. So with 5th through 8th graders, the ones that have social media, a lot of them, it's Instagram. So this is where I'm reaching my kids. It might not be reaching the parents, but it's where I'm reaching the kids and where I can, you know, show some of those good digital citizenship skills and try to be a role model and maybe even interact with some of the students that might comment and provide some different opportunities. So, you know, whether it's books for reading or celebrations or things that are happening in the library or upcoming events or reminders or various other things that we post to share. And recently, this year, I've definitely seen more kids kind of catch on that we're posting. I've even had a couple kids recently, we got in some new makerspace things, and I had a couple kids like say, you know, make a suggestion that was neat, like, oh, you should do a stop motion video of this or a slow motion video of this, or, you know, do this or do that. So it's neat to hear them start making those suggestions and engage with me that way. Next slide. So on Twitter, again, you know, one thing with Twitter too, just, I mean, I know people talk about this a lot in different conferences and things, but I cannot emphasize enough, like if you aren't on Twitter or you've never really participated in a Twitter chat or used a hashtag or what have you as an educator, I have gotten some of my best ideas on Twitter from, and heard about different programs such as the Global Read Aloud, or EdChange Global, which is an online free e-learning event every summer, or the Not a ISTE community that I learned so much from the last 2 summers. I would not know those things existed without Twitter and finding some of those connections and finding some of those hashtags. So just even from an educational standpoint, I definitely encourage you to do that. But I also started a library Twitter the other year. Now, again, I have some students on Twitter, but not as many. So with Twitter, it seems like that's maybe where I'm reaching more adults. So Instagram, I'm reaching more kids. Twitter, I'm reaching more adults. So parents, teachers, other schools, they're kind of seeing what I post on Twitter. And also last summer, I think it was from Sherry Dick, I found out on actually Twitter, through a Twitter conversation or chat that we were participating in about this app. I believe it's called IFFT. I'll have to check on my phone in a minute and see how many F's there are in it. But anyway, you can link together some of your social media accounts. So as an educator that's juggling multiples, that definitely makes it easier. So like if I post something to my Instagram for my school library account, it will instantly then like 2 minutes later post it to my school Twitter account without me having to do anything. So that's a huge time saver if you're wanting to do more social media with your getting information out there to your kids or parents. But again, I know time is a factor. But with the Global Read Aloud, so we participated in the Global Read Aloud school-wide this year. So all 4 grade levels, all 1,200-ish kids, we did the Global Read Aloud. And we did a long walk to water. We thought that that was a piece that was accessible to all of our grade levels and would have good learning opportunities. It also hit a lot of the diversity initiatives. I'm on the diversity committee in my building, and one of our big goals for the year was about developing empathy and getting students to become more globally aware and opening their eyes a little bit, and this book just fit in beautifully. So with this program, when we decided to do this back in the fall, we saw these opportunities to connect with other classes and use social media and use technology, but we didn't know about if that would place a burden on some of our classroom teachers. So we kind of decided early on that I would lead up some of those things in the library with classes and help seek out or find or lead these opportunities as we were going through the Global Read Aloud for the first time, and we're hoping to participate in it again next year with the book Refugee by Alan Gratz. But there are other book options too, and I know when Caitlin first mentioned Global Read Aloud, I copied in the link to their website, theglobalreadaloud.com. I definitely recommend checking that out. But anyway, so one of the weeks, or actually each week during the book, they have Twitter chats. So like since mine was Global Read Aloud, it was GRA Water, and then like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or whatever, depending on what week it was. And so I wanted to participate in the chats and get kids to participate. And then when we got to week 4, the people that had signed up to lead that week's chats weren't posting any questions and weren't doing anything. So instead of, trying to figure out what to do, I decided this is an opportunity. And so the kids that came in that week, they brainstormed in small groups. I had posted questions that other teachers and classes that had led the conversations in previous weeks had asked about the books for them to answer, but then I also opened it up to them to come up with suggestions for questions. So then we were tweeting out some of their questions. So we basically took over the week 4 chat since nobody else did. We did it. And so then I, through my Mrs. Boudreau Twitter, I was posting the questions for other schools and teachers participating in the program to respond to. And then through my library handle, I was also tweeting out a lot of our responses. And the kids were really engaged when we were working on this. They knew that they were going to have an authentic, real audience, reaching other classrooms and other kids and other teachers. They knew people were going to be reading this, and they definitely were mindful of that as they were crafting their responses. And I think they also felt empowered that other people were going to hear their ideas and their voice. So it was just a really neat opportunity and a cool way to see some of the kids stepping up to that. All right, next slide. Okay, so Padlet is something we use both with the Global Read Aloud and also for other things from the library as well. I do know that Padlet has definitely gotten a lot of attention on social media recently because they made some changes to their free version, but I also know that, it's definitely still something you can use. You just have less boards. I also know that there are people sharing alternatives or other tools that work the same way to Padlet. But Padlet, essentially, if you haven't used it, is kind of like a digital bulletin board where different people can brainstorm or share resources. You can turn moderation on or off. You can have it set up in a grid or in rows. There's a lot of different options when you are setting up a Padlet. But I had used it for the library for a couple different things, like my book club with 5th and 6th graders. Tomorrow we'll be sharing some reading recommendations on that so they can refer back to it during the summer. I've had 7th and 8th graders recommend books to each other and then refer back to it later in the year. I've had classes use it to brainstorm research topics or share websites that they felt like were trustworthy and that they were going to use on a certain topic they were researching, lots of different things. But one of the things we used it for with Global Read Aloud was when my students, my school were first starting, A Long Walk to Water, I knew that some of our kids needed to develop a little bit of a context and a background knowledge because they weren't familiar with Sudan or South Sudan. They weren't aware of some of what was happening during that time period, and so we needed to kind of develop some of that. So we came up with some different resources. I had some books, I had some websites, we had some databases, we had different things they could look at, and then I created a Padlet with some different topics for them to think about, such as Sudan's civil war or water scarcity or those types of things. And then because of the collaborative nature of Global Read Aloud, I shared out this Padlet. I shared it out on Twitter. I shared it out on the Global Read Aloud Facebook page. Also for Long Walk to Water, there was an Edmodo page. I shared it out there. And so throughout the week that we were working on this, I think it was during the first week maybe of A Long Walk to Water, as the week went, we saw more and more students and schools posting from other states and then even from other countries. And it was just very neat and exciting for us to see these other kids adding to our conversation and our background knowledge from all over the place. And I mean, again, Global Read Aloud for sure gives you an extra audience to do that. But even outside of Global Read Aloud, I mean, there's certainly educators that you can connect with, whether it's, you know, through a Twitter chat or through a conference or through a whatever, and find ways to share out things like this and get other classes and other teachers to work together with you. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then the last tool that I'm going to mention about is Flipgrid. So Flipgrid, I kept hearing everybody talk about last summer, and so I decided, okay, I need to look into it. This many people that I admire are talking about it. Okay, what is this? And so I got interested in Flipgrid. I've used it for a couple of things just like within our school. So you see like the bottom, the first three examples at the bottom are more like within our school. So there was like a Read Across America Day contest I had with them talking about and recommending a book, and a winner won like a free book and a couple little prizes or something. How to find a specific library book, I had sixth graders help fifth graders, because fifth graders were having a hard time finding a specific book in the system. So kind of sixth graders showing them how to do that process. So let me backtrack for a second. If you're not familiar with Flipgrid, Flipgrid is a platform where they're all about student voice. So it's with short videos. So students take short videos of themselves or of whatever they're looking at. I think the default time is usually about 1.5 minutes, and then students can see each other's videos, possibly like with the paid version, they can comment on each other's videos and respond. There's some of that you can't do with the free version, but you can still see each other's videos and react to it or try out different things. And so it's just a neat way for them to, again, have an audience, have other people that they know are going to look at it and have their voice. And also with Flipgrid, and I believe even with Padlet, there are certainly moderation options. And I know that a lot of my classroom teachers use moderation. But for me, I usually have moderation turned off for two reasons. One, if I'm doing something with these tools, a lot of times it's for, at minimum, like 300 kids or more, since I have 300 kids in each grade level, and that's a whole lot of moderation to keep up with, so I can't move fast enough for that. The second thing is that, to me, with my grade levels, I think that having moderation turned off, especially in an environment like Flipgrid or Padlet that's more within where only certain people have access to it, like people with the link or people that you're working with, it's kind of a safe space to learn how to respond appropriately and how to handle themselves in that environment. And with doing that this year, I have only had a couple of students make a few poor choices, but those poor choices were also pretty small in the grand scheme of things. And it was a very good learning experience, because then I talked to those students, I had them come down, we had a conversation in the library, like, hey, this is what I noticed. You know, what do you think about that? And it was a learning experience for them, and then they redid it, and, you know, I have full confidence they're not going to do it again. So I think it's, for my age level anyway, I think it's a safe, good way to learn that, especially, again, in something like Flipgrid or Padlet, where only, you know, people with that link or people with that whatever code or what have you are the ones that are going to have access to that. So there is still kind of a little bit of a bubble there, and kind of making them have less and less of a bubble as they get older. But another thing with Flipgrid, when we got to the Global Read Aloud, Bronwyn Joyce, who is amazing, and you should definitely follow her on Twitter, she is always trying to collaborate with others globally. She's a teacher in Australia, and she has this what if grid in Flipgrid, where she's always inviting people to think globally and to talk with her students in Australia and interact with each other and have important conversations. And she had a couple that were perfect fits for Global Read Aloud. She had one about, you know, what's in a refugee's backpack, and she had one about a long walk to water, and a girl who had to go every day to walk a long way in water and to get water for her family. And we pinpointed those two videos and had our students respond, had our students look at some of the other responses that people from other countries had posted, and just kind of have, again, an opportunity to think outside of their classroom and connect with others outside of their classroom as well. So yeah, okay. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I know that I will actually be leading a couple of sessions at the Innovation Exchange, which is going to be one of the Indiana DOE summer events that's going to be hosted by both HSC and Noblesville this summer. And one of the things I'll be talking about is the Global Read Aloud, and I will also be talking about Flipgrid, and also the ELearn chats. I know that Mary already mentioned. I definitely try to pop into those when I can. There's definitely times with my two small kids that it conflicts with bedtime, so I don't always make it. But I definitely recommend checking those out if you haven't yet, and participating in those when you can. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Joanne, and you made a good segue for me, because I neglected to share the Summer of E-Learning conferences in my little spiel about our professional development opportunities at the beginning of the webinar. So I just put in the URL. Unfortunately, it's not linked because I had to hand type it in, so it doesn't have the stuff at the beginning to make it know that it's a website. But we do have, how many do we have this summer? I think it's less than 20, maybe it's 18 or so. Summer of E-Learning conferences spread out all over the state, and those are fabulous, low cost. They're all, I believe, $25 or less, maybe $50 or less, but I think it's $25 or less. Great opportunities to see nationally known speakers, and also, again, fabulously awesome classroom teachers from, you know, right next door, right in our backyards, without driving, you know, without flying somewhere, without driving somewhere, without paying, you know, $400 or $500 or whatever ISTE costs. Like, this is a great opportunity. So if you are looking, oh, thank you, Joanne put the linkable, the linked URL in there. If you are interested in some professional development opportunities this summer, definitely check that out. They should all have registration open now. Hopefully they're all also sharing who their keynotes are So if something sounds interesting to you, definitely check that out. And I am looking forward to hopefully meeting Joanne in person because I will be at the HSE Noblesville conference this summer. So really great stuff shared by both Caitlin and Joanne today. And if you don't have something to take back to your classroom with you, if not this year but for next year, then please go back and rewatch the webinar because there were some really fabulous resources shared by both of these ladies. And again, this is perfect timing in that hopefully you can take some of this information and ponder it over the summer when you're, after you take your time off and you don't think about school for, however long that is. When you start thinking about next year and some changes that you're going to make and some things that you're going to maybe add, hopefully you will be able to take at least one of these resources and find a way to use it with your kiddos, no matter if you're teaching kindergarten or high schoolers. Hopefully there's something that you can utilize there. So, and there weren't any questions. Oh, there is a question that came to me. So somebody asked, how can we rewatch the webinar? And earlier, I'm going to go find the URL, but the URL for our YouTube channel was shared earlier. So I'm going to find that and repost it here in the chat. But we archive as long as technology is cooperative, and my webinar really did record as it says that it is recording. I will have the webinar share or available to watch early next week on, that's okay, early next week. So that is, and I also shared, Joanne was talking about Flipgrid, and that is like the hot topic, or it definitely was last summer. I think that has continued through the school year, but we did 2 digital tool smackdowns as part of Digital Learning Month in February. So I have both of those recordings available in that YouTube channel. So if you're interested in learning about Flipgrid, or there are several other great resources that teachers shared in those little tips and tricks, not from very beginning to how do you use it in your classroom, how do you go step by step in using it, but just some ideas of how to use those. That is available too on the YouTube channel. Also, I will be sending out PGP certificates in the next day or two, so be watching your email for that. And also with Joanne and Caitlin's permission, I will, if they give me permission, I'll share the actual slideshow that we had today, and that will contain any hyperlinks that were included in the webinar. So you would have access to those. So I didn't see any other questions that came in, so I think there was just a lot of great information shared today. And again, this webinar will be available to rewatch again next week if you are looking to review any information. So I just want to give a big thank you to Caitlin and to Joanne for sharing with us today and also taking the time to prepare for today. I know that this is a really super busy time of year, so I really appreciate you guys and the time that you gave to us today and in prepping for this. So thank you all very much, and I hope to see you maybe at a Summer of E-Learning conference this summer or back here in the E-Learning Lab next school year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.